Hello, Leonard. How doth it be?
It be fine, Grebnark. A little bit of a length issue, but I can't complain.
A length issue, Leonard?
Yes, I'm finding everything a bit too long. This sweater, my maiden's hair, life in general, really. It's all so long. Hence the length issue.
Well, what would be the operative length for you then, Leonard?
Well, about 13.5 inches, I think, is more than enough for anything.
Well, what about the interdimensional sports championships that they hold on Bippy Bippy every 4 Herkperts, You would have the Penusian treefolk of Gabba Turnth only run 13.5 inches with their thighs.
Yes, I have it on good authority from the Gurnt news station on Pecorip Nunk 7 that nobody really likes the Penusian treefolk anyway. They hog all the blankets, fart in the communal water baths, and one of them allegedly ate Flupgrunt's Aunt Ronald, so they can run the 13.5 inches and be done with it.
So how is it then that you would only have your life last 13.5 inches? I mean, how do you count time in inches?
Listen, you asked me what would be a good length, and I told you. Do you really expect me to have the answers to everything, Grebnark? I mean, I presume you would be allowed to live as long as you travelled under the distance of 13.5 inches. Or maybe you're alive long enough for your nipple hair to reach 13.5 inches, and then you drop dead.
Why'd you go nipple hair there, then?
I don't know. Crevice hair, then. Or the hair of a Malovian cockotter. I mean, really. This is a hypothetical conversation anyway. It's not like anyone can really solve my midlife length problem that I'm having.
Okay, then. Why hypothetical nipples?
Because nipples never hurt anybody, did they? You can't murder someone to death with nipples.
Well, I mean, I suppose you could suffocate them with nipples, if they were big enough. But also, in some cultures, like the clean-browed dump peoples of Omacreti Earth and Bulge 4, nipples in public are considered offensive and or taboo.
You know very well, Grebnark, that those people are weird. It's a wonder they've lasted as long as they have, considering their intense desire to see, touch and lick nipples, but their rigid adherence to demanding that they be removed from everyday society. I mean, really, what is the point? Imagine that. A world where nipples are both worshipped and vilified.
Puts your whole length problem you're having into perspective, though, doesn't it, Leonard?
I suppose you're right, Grebnark.
I mean, imagine having 13.5-inch nipples and having to keep them covered up.
That is very funny.
Right, now, fuck off, you loony. I've got to introduce this programme.
What programme is that, then?
It's one of those Dump People's podcasts. We discover it on a future trip to Omacroti Earth and Bulge 4.
I suppose it's all about nipples.
One can only hope.
You're listening to the sweet sounds of the After Movie Diner. Support us at patreon.com/After Movie Diner. Or I'll punch you in the teats. Rate and review us on iTunes, Earthling. And now, here's your host, John Cross.
Banter.
Banter. Well, hello. Yes, shinies. I've
they can
no
probably
idea.
stop there, right? I mean, that's basically the summary of what's going to happen, what you just did.
Yeah, what I just did is the summary of everything we're going to talk about on this.
You know, it's like a brief period in the 80s before you watch like a Magnum or Murder, She Wrote. They do that really annoying thing of like, this week, and then they do all the exciting things that happen in 30 seconds. You're like, you ruined the episode now. But that's what you've just stumbled on, the podcast equivalent of just then.
Well, I could. Oh, you want me to do all the fun things that happen in this film?
You just did, mate. You just did it. Banter. Yes. Hello. Very good. That's it. That's basically what this is going to be.
No. If you were to do the Murder, She Wrote, or the A-Team recap before you've even seen the episode, which now that you come to mention it, it's a really weird fucking thing that they used to do. But if you were going to do that about this movie, it would be like, oh, I think I'm going to take a bath. That would be the moment. Or yeah. I've lost my favourite hat. Like that, those two moments. I think I'll take a bath and I've lost my favourite hat. That's all you need to know, really. Anyway, lovely to have you back on the show, Jim, as always. Okay. Pleasure to be doing yet another Donald Pleasence movie.
Is this our final
you.
one? Is this our fourth?
No, right. So this is interesting. This was going to be our final one because it was our fourth one, and four is just a good, like we do 4 Sleazy Spader, we do 4 whatever.
It feels like a month's worth, even though it's taken us like 3.
It does, but when it's no, we did like 3 back to back. We only missed last week. That was the only week we didn't record.
That's pretty good for us, mate.
It is. But then today, my friend Chris Taylor on Facebook's posted an uber rare but apparently quite fun British Donald Pleasence movie that he sent me the file for. So I was thinking like I could send it to you and we could both like watch the first 15 minutes, and if you want to do it you could say, yeah, let's do a 5th one.
Oh no, I'm happy. Listen, most of my life is watching things that I want to watch. It's not like the cinema, right, where it's like, when we go to the cinema, if it's like something kind of crappy and weird, then that kind of, sometimes it means like the experience isn't that great, you know what I mean? But in the case when I'm just sitting on my couch watching telly, I'm doing that anyway, and all I do is like watch things that I want to watch or that I'm interested in or whatever. But having to watch something deeply odd is in itself a new and wonderful experience, which I'm happy to put myself through.
Okay, fair enough. So we'll do a 5th Donald Pleasence.
You're never going to get me more pliable to watching 70s shash.
Yeah.
With almost no redeeming qualities outside of Donald Pleasence than being stuck indoors in the middle of a global pandemic.
Yeah, as we head into
mate, is what I'm saying.
As we head into the 3rd wave, I just want to reiterate to everyone for the 788th time, even though none of you will, and this will continue to happen, wear your fucking masks. Just wear.
No, I've got a different message.
Just wear your fucking masks.
If you're going to give them an instruction that they're going to ignore, I would say send money to you. Do you know what I mean? Pay for the podcast. You know what I mean? Like, that's what if they're going to ignore you, they should ignore your perfectly reasonable pleas to like fling you a few quid for the podcast.
No, you're right. Let's start this properly and they'll ignore everything. Hello and welcome to the After Movie Diner with my regular co-host, Jim Wallace. We are talking Donald Pleasence as part of our Pleasencing season here on the Diner. And despite the ever dwindling listener numbers for the Donald Pleasencing series.
Have we chosen like listening, like death? Listening,
yeah, probably. But I kind of like it. I think let's slip into even more irrelevance. But you're right. Let's be professional. Let's say to people, hey, smash the subscribe button. Donate on Patreon. That's patreon.com/aftermoviediner. Why don't you
don't visit the website that never updates?
I updated the website. I even posted a Hammer Horror review the other day.
I'm closing, mate. I'm putting the finishing touches on number 61.
Oh, very exciting, very exciting. Anyone who's not following
which is everyone.
Which is everyone. But Jim has been doing something akin to performance art. Well, non-wanky performance art. I'm going to say non-wanky performance art over the last, 27 years? You have been writing... You've been writing in the guise of the bloke down the pub reviews of Hammer horror films, and I have to say I'm sorry because I'm in a few Hammer horror groups, and I've looked around online for other such Hammer horror review collections, and I'm sorry, yours stands head, shoulders, knees and toes above the rest. It really does.
I have to say, because the last one, the one you just posted, the Stop Moving Before I Kill, like I wrote that months and months and months ago, and I read it back going, hey, because sometimes I read them back and going, well, I don't know about this one, and I just something about I didn't quite catch it or whatever. But that was like, well, I like this one. That was a good one, talking about the French.
Yeah. And I think what's great about them is, first of all, they're unconventional reviews. Secondly, I feel like you can read them without having seen the movie.
I think that's right.
You need to have seen Hammer to kind of understand the milieu, But beyond that, just to you, the milieu, you have to understand the milieu. But once you've understood the milieu, I feel like you can read the reviews and just enjoy the pub gobshiteness of them all, and the fact that you have managed for 50 plus reviews to find something more or less unique every time out to talk about. There's always like this strong metaphor. There's metaphor abounding within each of your reviews. So they work if we're going to get really commode about it. They work, Jim, on a 3-tier level. They really are a triptych of workingness that is happening here. And I still don't I don't understand what alcoholic seltzer is. We don't even call it seltzer over here. It's bubbly water. Deal with it. Anyway,
so outrageous,
so fresh.
Kicking down the doors of convention with his suede loafers of rebellion.
Yeah, and then while I'm at it, why don't I play you some skiffle? Fuck off, Commode. But yeah, no, seriously, check out the Bloke Down the Pub Hammer Horror reviews. I will be posting more as the year winds to a close. We will also be having our upcoming New Year's Eve special featuring the New Year's Eve All-Stars Mo, Doc, and Andrew Buckley. And we are covering Weird 90s Walken. That's what we're doing this year. Okay. So we're doing Communion and what's the other? The Prophecy and just a couple of bonkers things that he did. The one called The Eternal, where he plays an Irish lord with a mummy in his basement. And it has amazing. Yeah, and it has your man in it. I actually sort of tangentially know him. Your man from Mad Men in it, and Harris's daughter, Jared Harris, Richard Harris's son. It has him in it, and Walken playing a mad Irish uncle who has a mummy in his basement.
I was never sure about Harris until that AMC, the show about him as the captain on the stuck ship in the Arctic.
I don't know what that one was.
Terror.
Okay.
You should give it a go. It was absolutely corking. It's a one-off.
Yeah.
Right. It's a single season show. It's an adaptation of a book, basically.
Well, Kim's friends with his wife. I've actually met him. When we went to London, and every time I go to London, I have one of those pub gatherings, and we get everyone in from Wickham and Norfolk and stuff, and come down to London and hang out. And he showed up. I was hanging out with all my Wickham lot, and his wife was there chatting with Kim. And then Jared Harris showed up. And it was just sort of one of those surreal things, because I'm like, how do I do this? I can't, he can't walk into the pub and I go, oh my God, Jared Harris. But at the same time, pretending that I'm oh yeah, I'm so, I'm cool with the fact that, Jared Harris is just hanging out with me and my mate. That also seems disingenuous. Yeah, it was a really weird experience.
Yeah.
But yeah,
all pub visits with you, mate, should be a weird experience.
Well, that's true. But you're saying it's The Terror? Is that what it was called?
No, I just think you'd really like it because he's playing a ship's captain.
You love shit on ships.
It's all based on a true story about two ships that went off to forge a passage across the top of the world, through the Arctic, and they got stuck, and then they all went mad. And nobody knows what happened to them, except what they found afterwards. And what they found of their remains and what had happened was deeply peculiar. And the whole show, which is based on a book, is what might have happened to them, kind of a thing. And it's really good. It's got loads of really cool people in it. But I always been a bit I'm not sure about him. But in that, he was fucking brilliant.
But you see, I feel like that synopsis, for people who have been listening to the Diner for this long, I feel like that synopsis is a particularly Jim, synopsis. I feel like that is something that speaks inherently to you.
That's probably true.
It's on a ship. Yeah. It's essentially one location. It's an ensemble group of people. It's in a snowy wasteland, which is like...
Yeah, you're right. The more you say, I'm like, they basically made a show for me.
Well, they basically made like a show of one of your songs that you wrote in 2002 kind of thing.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so maybe it won't be for you then. But it was for me, and he was very good in it.
If he fell in love with a communist-era Russian woman who tuned pianos, then it would be a Jim song from 2002.
It would be the hat trick. Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, so that sounds good. That's fantastic. Yes, everyone should support this show over at patreon.com/aftermoviediner, patreon.com/aftermoviediner, or just go to Aftermovie Diner and donate, or go to Aftermovie Diner and hit the buy us a coffee button and just give us $3, like just a one-time.
That's nothing.
One-time donation of $3. Go ahead and do it. The other thing you could do is sign up for our newsletter, and then sporadically, like once every 4 to 8 months, just get a random newsletter from us, because that occasionally does happen. But yeah, go do that.
Always a privilege, mate. Always like getting a newsletter from you.
If not, the only other thing you could do, which would please me no end, this doesn't even require any money, and that is that every time you see me posting about my music, share the post. Just hit the share button. Just hit the share button. That's all you have to do. Just hit the share button. You know, I've spent 2020 recording what I consider the best music that I've ever recorded, and certainly the best songs I've ever written. And I've done it with a lot of our mutual friends, and some of my own friends, and it's been an absolute joy. And I genuinely think that I've produced music that you could put on with friends and not be embarrassed that it's like your weirdo friend Crossy, but that it's actually like, oh yeah, this is my buddy John, he did this album, isn't it great? Like, I feel like you could do that now with the stuff that I'm producing. So all I'm asking, I mean, yes, you could go to Bandcamp and buy the albums, but all I'm really asking you to do is every time I post about my music, share it. And if you want to follow me on Facebook, Miscellaneous Plumbing Fixtures. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's Misk Plumfix. You can also go over to miskplumfix.com. Either way, I I really did put a lot of effort into my music this year, and I am genuinely very proud of it. And I would just love it if someone just shared, liked it. You know, I know I'm sounding a bit pathetic now. Like, please like me. Please. I don't need you to like me. I know how unlikable I am. but
no, it's a bit late for that, mate.
Yeah, but my music's half decent, so go have a listen. The latest EP is out, A Man of the Country, 6 songs, a couple about the country, and the rest are about the country at large. Go figure it out. See the double meaning, it's a 2-layered thing, Jim. What you have to understand is there's 2 layers.
Your metaphor is unstoppable.
There's 2 layers there. A man of the country, or a man of...
Keep at it, mate. One day you'll get to 3.
Well, one day you get 3 metaphor-tiered genius.
Speaking as a resident of the 3-tiered metaphor palace, I assure you, one day you will get there.
I like that.
If you keep at it.
Jim Wallace, a resident of the 3-tiered metaphor palace. And also, follow J.E.A. Wallace's poetry and check out the latest poem that Jim had published online.
Yes, do that thing.
Now, you could do what I've done and go on Amazon and buy all of the places where his poems have been published, because not only is he a big genius, but I believe in supporting and sharing and paying it forward and all that good stuff. You could do that. And if you want to find the links for those things, I'm sure it's over at jeawallace.com, which is always linked in the podcast description on aftermoviediner.com. So just scroll down, look at the links.
I realise that. That's great. Thank you.
Click the link and go find it. Buy his bleeding book and read the poems. Because look, it's 2020, right? We all went down into lockdown for about 10 minutes. Artists and musicians and famous people like did live streams and concerts and, you know, Instagram stories and stuff like that. And everyone was like, yeah, creativity. And then after about 2 weeks, everyone was like, now we've had enough of that. Well, Jim and I haven't had enough of that. And we keep producing, we keep putting stuff out, and people keep publishing things that Jim has written because he's a huge genius. So don't let yourself fall into the doldrums. We are the doldrum killers, and you should enjoy our stuff. We are the doldrum killers. Who else has produced Hammer Horror reviews, podcasts, albums, and poems and books all in 1 year? We are the doldrum killers. All right, so enough of self-publicizing ourselves over and over again. Tonight we are talking more Donald Pleasence. We are speaking about the 1976 movie Land of the Minotaur, also known as The Devil's Men, also known as The Devil's People, also known as La Secta del Diablo.
Political correctness gone mad.
La Secta de Morte Vivante, or Homens du Diablo, or La Val del Minotauro, or, as I call it, Camel Toe and the Two Twassics, which is what the movie really is, because at a certain point, the leading lady, Luann Peters, wears the most obscenely tight white trousers ever stitched onto a lady's body, and her Pleasence and the ridiculously eyebrowed leading man, whose name I'm not even going to bother trying to pronounce, they all stand on like a hilltop, and she's in the middle, and Pleasence is to one side, and the other guys to the other side. Costas Karagiorgis, I don't know how to pronounce it, but they stand on the side, and it is literally Camel Toe and the Two Twassics. So that's what I call this movie. I would say it's sort of, because it is one of those that has been kicked around the public domain, I feel like it's one that's never really gone away. Like it's unusually present. Like if you search Donald Pleasence on any streaming service, this one kind of pops up, and it's never really kind of gone away. And so it's one of those that just sort of hangs about, even though it's not very good. It's directed by another person whose name I'm going to mangle. Costas, again, another Costas, a lot of Greeks knocking about. Costas Karagiannis, I think. And he was prolific as all get out. He directed 174 films between the years of 1960 and 1991. So in 31 years, he made 174 movies. You can say what you like about Eric Roberts showing up for Beans and doing one scene, and therefore having an IMDb that reads of about 500 credits. But if you are directing 174 films, I think it shows you over the course of 30 years, I'm not even going to do the maths there, but that's several movies a year. That shows you why these movies are not very good. Because he literally, I'm going to shoot this for tuppence over 14 days, and then I'm going to start the next one. I suppose it's a bit like me and music.
I would agree that the movie is not one in which any kind of, like, the word rigor is nowhere near this movie. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing rigorous about any of that.
It's the rigor vacuum, this movie.
Yeah. It's rigorless.
So he made an average of 5.6 movies a year for 31 years.
Wow, that really is something.
Most of them went straight to video.
As they did,
as you would expect.
Did any of them else star, as this one did, Father Ted Crilly as a private detective?
No. Well, I mean, I don't know. I would have to look at him and then like cross-reference him with a bunch of movies that are all
like because did we ever like find out his name or anything? Because I just kept thinking of him as Father Ted Crowley, Private Detective.
His name is Milo.
Oh, it's Milo. Okay.
Milo, the wearer.
Ted Crowley, PI, all the way through the movie. Yeah. Every time he was like saying anything or doing anything, that's all I was thinking.
He's an outrageous.
It made me more entertaining.
He's an outrageously silver-haired Greek gentleman who lives in Manhattan, but then comes back to Greece.
Yeah, but inexplicably,
but wears a lot of Canadian tuxedos.
But what I can't figure out at any point in the movie is why
any of it.
Donald Pleasence is under threat.
Yeah,
it's like, you know what I need? I need to call a bloke who lives in New York who's going to come over here and rubbish my theories. Like it's not like I'm reaching out to you in this time of need for your support.
Yeah, all
he does is turn up, rubbish Pleasence's theories.
Yeah, they don't even seem to like. They don't even seem to like each other.
Oh, they hate each other.
Also, it seems that Pleasence, being an Irish priest, again, no need for Pleasence to be an Irish priest, but okay.
Especially in Greece. Like, why does he need to be Irish in Greece?
Right, but then also, like, if you're gonna, if this is taking place in a contemporary world, which it is, because the dude flies in from Manhattan, why does Cushing show up and start talking about, like, yes, from my original country, Carpathia, and I'm like, what? Like, Carpathia wasn't around in the 70s.
You're right, I missed that. Although, fortunately, we do get 2 scenes of planes coming into land. You know, like the standard 70s thing of a plane comes into land in the airport, taxis, they go, we got to eat up some time here, lads. And they go, that happens like twice in 10 minutes. You go, why with the planes? We get it. Do you know what I mean? It was so weird. Can I just say, by the way, I'm not normally a so bad it's good kind of a thing. And it's not good, although it is bad. But for some reason, possibly because all I've done is watch telly and it's been like high-quality drama or blah, 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 whatever. Sitting there and watching like an obviously terrible film in which nobody was even slightly bothered about what was happening or was like way too untalented to do anything about it, even if we had known what was wrong, that I just started to kind of enjoy it. It's like I'm starting to kind of admire the moxie it took to not care this much about like literally anything.
So this is
strung together in the most delightfully, not even haphazard way. Just like couldn't give a shit. Like he's like allergic to transitions. The director, like I don't care. I'm getting from one place to another. Don't care. We'll keep it moving, right? That's all that matters.
What I would say to burgeoning low budget filmmakers who want to pad out their screen time, the idea of invite each of your characters to the location one at a time so that you can have sequences where they're meant to be in an apartment in New York where Donald Pleasence calls them up and is like, do you want to come over? Yeah, all right, I think I'll come over. Do you want to come over, Jenny? No, I'm going to stay here. All right, I'll come over. I think you should have invited Jenny. All right, I'll invite Jenny. Well, wait a minute. Let's invite Jenny by a letter. Okay, we'll write a letter. Then we'll take that down to the post office. Well, this is killing screen time all over the place. So walk into the post office. Then have another shot. Then have another shot of the plane flying in. Why? Well, because Jenny's coming in from New York. But isn't that implied by the whole conversation we just had? Yeah, but we want to kill time. Okay, great. Then when she lands, go, well, no, wait a minute. She's engaged to so-and-so. Well, shouldn't we invite so-and-so over? All right, let's get him over. He happens to be a private detective who only wears denim and apparently doesn't believe in anything. He keeps still talking about facts, yet the one fact that they definitely know is that a bunch of their friends has disappeared, but he doesn't believe that any of them have, even though that's the only fact that anyone can actually corroborate.
Why is he over? If he believed, like, what did Donald Pleasence say? Like, if you don't come over, I'll, release the photo of you and the pig or whatever. Like, why is he jumping on a plane from New York at a moment's notice on the basis of, I don't believe any of it, everything's fine, it's all in your head? You need to you can say that over the phone. It doesn't need to be like, listen, Pleasence, I'm a bit tired of jumping on planes every time you imagine people disappearing in your fucking... Do you know what I mean?
Well, doesn't he say over the phone, like, because it's all one-sided, you don't see Pleasence's side of it, but he's on the phone and he's da-da-da, and doesn't he go, like, Okay, yes, all right, no, I do believe you. All right, yes, no, I'm coming on the next flight. Like, isn't he kind of coerced to come here? And yet he clearly states that he does believe him, even though the rest of the movie, he doesn't believe him, period.
It's just a very odd...
So this was...
And I don't know why they need to fly in a Greek bloke into Greece. Like, can't he just be in Greece?
Yeah.
Like, why does he need to be... Oh, my God, he's coming from New York with his, like... I mean, there's, like, urban bits of Greece. It's not all, do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, mystical Carpathian counts.
Right. Well, this is the other thing, is, like, while the Carpathian Mountains are real... Carpathia is a fictional place. So it's even weirder that Cushing would be like, I am Baron whatever from Carpathia. No, you're not. You're not. Like, he can be a Greek bloke from New York because that's a thing that exists. But you're not Baron whatever from Carpathia. And
you're not an English Baron from Carpathia living in Corfu. Like,
right.
What? Why?
And while you can get away with such mumbo-jumbo bollocks, if you're setting your movie in, like, 17th century, Moldavia or whatever, you can get away with that if it's an Amicus or a Hammer movie that's set in, like, a fictional place full of vampires and stuff.
Yes, it's fine. Look, they're vampires. It's fine for this place to be made up. Totally
right.
cool.
But
not in, like, present day. There's, like, present-day Carpathia. Like,
No.
What am I supposed to be doing? What are people in Carpathia, that place we've just made up? What do they even do? But you know what else that strikes me? Like, the whole Peter Cushing, like, okay, so he's come from Carpathia to Greece to worship, like, a talking statue.
The Minotaur.
But what is he... now, I may have missed this.
Yeah.
But what is he getting out of the arrangement exactly?
Nothing.
Right? There's no everlasting life.
No.
He doesn't even get to, like... He's not even murdering... Like, even if he got off on, like, murdering people, he's not even doing that. He's just, like... Unless he... I mean, if all he's getting out of this, I like dressing up in robes and having a ceremony.
Yeah.
There's literally... I'm sure Carpathia would be just as good a place to do that, isn't it?
A wash with robes in Carpathia.
Right,
you can't move.
In the place that you made up, that you can have as many ceremonies and robes as you like.
Right.
What are you in Greece for? Plus, he's walking around in his suits going, he must be hot, Pete.
Must be hot.
Very hot and dusty there.
Must be hot.
What are you doing?
But no, what's my kind of capsule review of the movie, and then we can get back into like ridiculing it a little bit. But my capsule review of the movie is
with love.
I don't know. Actually, I'm going to go against the with love thing. I mean, yes, with my tongue in cheek maybe, but not with any love. I have no love for this film. But my feeling was it was very, very, very dull. But at the same time, it was very, very, very silly. And yet it wasn't silly enough to counteract how dull it was.
No, that's true. You're right. It was a little too dull.
It was overbearingly dull. And so that was my first thing. The second thing I would say about this is this. And as a counterpoint to the argument I was making last week, right? I totally understand why the Yankees' effort was not your cup of tea. However, considering what they had, right? The mountains of New Zealand, a shitty old helicopter, Donald Pleasence, a series of Mad Hats, and George Peppard. You know what I mean? They put the beans against the wall, and they did their very best, right? And or you can look at it, and you can look at it as an admirable failure because they really, really tried to, like I say, throw everything they could at the wall, right? This movie, on the other hand, right, has, the Greek locations. It has a big castle. It has a big statue of the Minotaur with flames coming out of its nostrils. You have Peter Cushing. You have all the robes you can eat. You have Donald Pleasence. You have a bunch of women who seemingly have no problem being naked. You have murderous children. Like, you have lots of elements that, like I say, if you want to make it an admirable mess, you really could have done something with, even on a low budget. So don't give me the budget thing. If either one of us had those elements, right? Even if we were let's say we were just stood on a rocky outcrop in Greece with all those elements, like Pleasence and Cushing were just looking at us going, we're here then, you've paid us, a ham sandwich and half a pack of love hearts. What are we doing here? Either one of us on the fly could come up with something that was at least.
But I think,
hang on a second.
That's right.
At least exciting. At least exciting. Even if it was just Pleasence and Cushing doing the can. Like,
but here's the thing, right? I get where you're coming from, but I think that's why I'm more. I realize this is counterintuitive, but I think the reason I'm more attracted to this than the other one, right? And I grant you, it's a question of mood, and I'm fully. So going back to the Hammer thing briefly, I find myself having wildly different reactions to Hammer films. Like, I watch them once and think they're great, watch them again and think this is terrible. So, with that caveat, but I think the reason is that everybody involved in the Yankees effort, right? I get what they were trying to do, and they succeeded admirably in what they were trying to do, in that they did create, like, your perfect movie, right? Pretty much. Like, I was watching it go, Crossy, I can see why Crossy loves this film, but it wasn't for me, right? But this one was bad, but it was bad in a way that I don't understand why it was bad. Like, I'm attracted to it because it's a mystery. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what the mysterious. It's not like you are an idiot and you made a bad decision, right? It's more like, what were they thinking and what is going on? And just there was enough of that, like, awed disbelief to kind of enjoy it. And plus, I had an image at the beginning of the movie of, at the very least, there was a moment, right, in my head, and maybe this never happened, but in my head, when, like, outside some Greek bar somewhere, like in the sun, in between takes or whatever, Donald Pleasence and Peter Cushing, right, are just, like, hanging out on their whatever number movie this is. Like, neither of them are like, where are we this week? What the fuck? Where am I from again? You know what I mean? Like, and they're just, like, shooting the breeze about Greece and movies and whatnot. And next to them, in the most inexplicable, like, of all the things that are inexplicable about this movie, the fact that it is scored by Brian Eno is way up there in terms of what?
Yeah, that's
Who
baffling.
did the music? And the thing is, the music all the way through is it's really good music, right? It's weird and out there and experimental and odd. And you go, why did Brian Eno look at this script and go, this is the script for me, I will be doing the music for this one? So it's Brian Eno, Donald Pleasence, and Peter Cushing sitting in the sun in Greece, having a good old chinwag.
Right.
That image, which I had quite near the beginning of the movie, just kind of warmed the whole thing to me. It made it seem more pleasingly, like, odd and slapdash and inexplicable. And I'm drawn to things I will never understand.
It's certainly not a movie that would, even though both of them, like, less than phone this in, they both, like, page this in, if that was even a thing in 76. They both fax this in, like, they both
tied it to a carrier pigeon.
Yeah.
With you know what I mean, like a grotty Trafalgar Square carrier pigeon with only one leg.
They both wrote it on a filthy cocktail napkin, put it into a little paper boat, and blew it half-assed across a pond, like,
while lying drunk on a bench.
Right. But that still doesn't in any way dim the shine of Pleasence and Cushing. Like, Pleasence and Cushing will forever be two of the favorite men who have ever breathed life on this planet. Like, they just will always remain that for me, because they are just quintessentially, bafflingly wonderful. However, there are other movies like this where, where they're slightly more exciting, but they're sort of equally budgeted and equally bizarrely cast, where you forgive some of it and you kind of go, well, it wasn't written by someone where English was their first language, and in horror movies or action movies or surreal weird monster movies or whatever it is, reasons for things happening and so on don't have to be completely ironed out. They can be a little like, there's a monster over there and we have to go kill it. Great. Okay. Why? It doesn't matter. Let's just keep going and get the monster, whatever. Like, you can, I'll make those leaps, and I'll make those leaps also based on, English not being their first language and maybe something getting lost in translation in the script. However, and I've done that with movies in the past, we have done that where we've looked at it, we've gone, it's a B movie, and because of budget, because of Lost in Translation, because of whatever, you know, it's a decent showing. The reason why I cannot make the same claims about this movie is, I'll accept there's no reason for Cushing to be doing what he's doing, and I'll also accept that there's a talking statue that blows fire out of its nose, seems to want children to commit murder, and when it explodes has guts. So I'll accept that.
Also,
right?
The kids just like walk away. Yeah. And they're like, well, they're only kids. They murdered people.
Yeah, but
they're not like 8. Like, they're teenagers, and they just murdered people. And we're like, oh, they'll be fine. They'll get over it. So no consequences.
No, don't worry about it.
The murdering children.
Jim, their souls are beyond reproach. The murdering
that's
little,
right.
the murdering little children, the murdering little fucks.
But there's something that they're innocent. So yeah, but you're right. This is more to... Look,
wait. Let me finish my point. My point very quickly, and I rambled on too long, but my point is this. There are certain things in B movies that I will excuse time and time again because either they're enjoyable or because I found them delightfully weird or because, I'm not going to argue about every tiny little script detail. The reason why I will not say that about this movie is not those leaps of fantasy that you take based on the fact that it's sort of a weird 70s horror movie filmed in Greece. The reason why I will not give this movie a pass is nobody in this film acts like anyone resembling a human being would ever act in any scenario ever. And I don't care if you're Greek, Outer Mongolian, Azerbaijani, whatever it is. Human beings act like human beings. Like there are things that human beings do, and there's a very small baseline for like how humans act. Right? It's a very small baseline. Oh, I'm hungry. Oh, I fancy her. Whatever it is. There's a very small baseline for it. Nobody in this film, like. And what's bizarre about it is the Greek guy, the 174 movie Costas guy. No, the Costas guy who made the movie, 174 wrote the movie, whatever, that guy, right? He just sat down and was just like, and then she does that, and then she does this, then she takes another bath. Why? It doesn't matter. Just she needs to take a bath. Why? Okay, fine. Whatever. He just wrote like a bunch of bonkers stuff. And instead of when they got there, them looking at me like, didn't I just take a bath and get attacked by a bunch of guys? Why would I now be taking another bath? Like, instead of saying that and saying, I'm going to have her go shopping, or I'm going to have her go find some food, or I'm going to go have her take a lie down because she's tired. Like,
I know, but there's...
Hang on a second. Instead of doing that, everyone just showed up and read this bizarre script as written, as if this guy was like the Orson Welles of Greece and needed to auteur all over the place and demand that everyone read his pathetic dialogue.
But here's the thing, right? I don't think he wrote it, which leads me to believe that instead, because I'm with you on this one, I think...
Oh shit, he didn't write it. I thought he wrote it.
No, but here's the thing. I think it's even better, mate. I think it's even better. I think what happened was he took a script that probably made sense.
Right.
But changed it as filming was happening with his own mad whims about, she should take another bath. What, in the script, she goes shopping. No, I think she should take a bath. Okay, she can take a bath. Cool. Okay, now in this next scene, she has to go and pick up, some food, whatever. What if she didn't pick up some food? What if she took another bath? Why you want to? Do you know what I mean? Like, what I like is it's so obvious. Everything that's wrong with the movie is so obviously the product of one mind, right? Because there's a consistently
inept,
lazy arrogance that I find immensely appealing because it's so honest. He's not trying to pretend. He already assumes he's great. There's no pretending here. He assumes he's great and that we're all stupid. And all he wants to do is do the things that happen to fire his imagination in the moment, right? Which is, to be fair, most directors. But nobody's keeping him on the rails, clearly.
What's super weird?
The script writer's like, do I get paid? Do I get paid less if she takes a bath and goes to shop? No, then do what you fucking like. I don't care.
Also, what is odd, and I've got to believe that this is IMDb like getting it wrong. Like, I've got to believe that because IMDb says Arthur Rowe wrote the movie. So I know that goes against my recent rant about Costas Karagiannis, but I think either Costas Karagiannis like used a name that was like Arthur Lowe as like a writing name or something, because when you look at Arthur Lowe, right, Arthur Lowe is known for writing and producing The Bionic Woman, Fantasy Island, Mission Impossible, $6 Million Man. I'm scrolling through, right? He's written a whole ton of American TV shows. The Girl from U.N.C.L.E., The Wackiest Ship in the Army, I don't know, Rawhide, Death Valley Days, M Squad, The Adventures of Rin Tin Tin, all these TV shows.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you.
Hang on a second. He's never written a film script. The only film script he's credited for, and I've got to believe this is a mistake, is this one, which is he wrote The Magnificent Seven ride as well. But outside of that,
I'm telling you, man.
He's not written any other screenplays.
He wrote this on an afternoon. He sold it for like a few grand. Costas just bought a script off somebody and then changed literally everything in it.
I just don't believe...
So that women would take more baths and there would be a Minotaur in it. I'm telling you, there were no baths or Minotaurs in Rowe's script.
The only reason I'm saying this, and why I find this utterly... This has now added an even larger layer of bizarre for me, is because, and we've talked about this before as well, is that the one thing America does pretty well is the 45-minute procedural TV show, right? Whether that is the new wave of Law and Orders and CSIs and NCISs, or whether it's the 70s Fantasy Island, Bionic Woman, $6 Million Man, Starsky and Hutch, Streets of San Francisco, blah, 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 Kolchak, those kind of things, right? They're all the product of the same machine, right? And the people who write for those, say what you like about them. No, maybe they're not movie script writers, but say what you like about them. They know how to get from A to B to C and have some consistent characters and have a consistent reason for stuff happening. I do not believe a guy who has worked on as many TV shows as Arthur Rowe has sat down and wrote the movie we just watched.
Let me say this, right? There's no way. Two things are true as far as I'm concerned. One is, no way Costas, the director, has the patience to sit down and write anything. That's not a fact. He doesn't have it. He doesn't have the patience.
He's written 49. He's written 49 things. Of his 174 movies, he's written 49 of them. I think he's just nicked somebody else's script and put his name on them, because it strikes me this script is written by somebody who, just like you're saying, doesn't care about getting from A to B, couldn't give a shit about it, just wants whatever weird thing he thinks is cool to happen like as quickly as possible. He's had some cool idea for a thing where a woman's taking a bath and people in creepy hoods start looking at her, and then it's like, well, there's one in the window, one in the door, another one in the window, another one in the door, even though there's only one window and one door. And then when she turns around, they've disappeared, even though at no point is anybody suggesting that the people in hoods are mystical and can vanish at will. And yet they can do it. But what about that? Like, there's another scene where the people in hoods show up again and Pleasence is looking out of a window. And first of all, Pleasence makes a clicking noise with his thumb, because you're right, you don't want to alert the men in hoods that they've been seen. You want to call over the Greek New York Ted Crilly and have him look out the window. But that isn't what happens. What happens is Pleasence clicks his fingers a little time. When New York Ted Crilly doesn't show up right away, Pleasence goes, come see, like he shouts really loudly. Right? And then even though the Greek New York Ted Crilly comes over to the window, you then see this really, this is what I mean. It's like dull but silly, right? So that the setup is dull, the execution is dull, but then the way it's enacted is silly. So Pleasance clicking his fingers, having no patience, and going, come look, really loudly. That's silly. And then the shot of the people in hoods scurrying away like cartoon characters, that's also silly. But it's so overwashed with
Oh yeah, but
wave
you're right. That's
that's
that great scene as well, where you're right. There's an appealing silliness. I think that's what draws me to it, because it's like accidentally silly. Like I think what I don't respond well to in Yankees Effort, which you do, and I understand why, and I'm not poo-pooing it at all. But a lot of what's happening in Yankees Effort is deliberately silly, in a nice way, in a good-natured way. But it's supposed to be, this is silly, and I like silly. This is accidentally silly. This is like incompetently silly, and for some reason I find myself drawn to that because it's not.
But here's an example. This is a really good example because as we're talking about it, this movie is the anti-Yankees Effort. I'm going to explain what I mean. Right. Okay. So in Yankees Effort, they're stranded on a hillside. Right. And in any other movie, it would be like, oh, my mate lives over the hill. He's got a car. We'll go borrow his car, right? And you go borrow his car, blah, 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 blah. And in Yankees Effort, they take my mate lives over the hill and I'm going to go borrow his car to all of my weird hermit hobo mountain men friends are going to have a big mad sing-along, and then we're going to make a tank out of bits of junk and bullshit, right? And then we're going to have a very weird low-speed chase with George Peppard in a mad hat, right? You take what is a trope, which is we're stranded without hope, but oh wait, Pleasence knows a chap across the road who owns a car. You take that and you blow it out to, mad hobos building tanks and running away from behatted Peppard. In this movie, right, if you had a scene in this movie where it was like my friend over there needs to borrow a car, the scene would be they would sit around in a taverna, right, talking about cheese or whatever, and then the guy would come by and he'd be like, hi, I'm Jeff's friend, I have a car. And then they would all sit around and they go, I think we need a car. Do we need a car, Brian? Yeah, we need a car, Brian. Okay, great. Yeah, we'd like to borrow your car. Thank you for coming by, Jeff, and offering your car. And then they would go get in a car, and then there would be another interminable scene of them all driving along in a car. And even though they're clearly only going 30 miles an hour, Pleasence inexplicably would be like, oh, will you stop driving so fast? Oh, my favorite hat. Like that would be this movie. So instead of taking, this movie takes tropes that would appear in any other movie, completely misunderstands them, and instead of making something more interesting and bizarre out of them, makes something dull and makes you question, like, do these people even understand how humans walk, talk, eat, and breathe? Because I don't think they do. And Yankees Effort takes something where they're like, we need a trope where X, Y, and Z happens. And yes, they do that, but then they blow it up to like 11. Both movies suffer from a lot of inconsistencies and a lot of like random decisions and a lot of incongruous behavior by the characters. However, one starts and doesn't stop, is just like bananas from start to finish, and ramps it up, and has mad chases and lots of brass band music, and the other one just grinds to a stodgy halt while Brian Eno dies on an accordion background.
Yeah, I don't think that's inaccurate. And like I say, I've got no justification for feeling the way I do. Like, none. Except that for some reason I found the experience of watching this movie just more pleasant than more fun than Yankees Effort, which I recognise is very unfair, because I think you're right that there's an honesty to its silliness, rather than sort of like, well, we're going to have a joke here, and like jokes are people being silly, so let's have like people like saying something silly because that's funny and we need funny. It's just like total incompetence. But at the same time, they made a movie and they got Cushing and Pleasence and Brian Eno involved, so I can only assume he was a hell of a salesman. I just maybe, and I'm willing to believe this. I never watch movies like this. I understand that you watch movies like this all the time. Not this quality, but weird 70s horror films set in odd countries that don't make a lot of horror films, and so there's something kind of pleasing about them. And of course, most of them are terrible, but some of them are great. for a number of reasons. But you have like a much more sophisticated palette when it comes to these movies. But I normally, after like 10 minutes, like I don't need this. I can't be doing with it, and switch off and go and watch something else instead. But having to sit down and watch this is quite an unusual occurrence for me to watch a movie like this start to finish. So I think that natural charm of that they're in Greece, that, you know, the lead is probably the director's brother or mate or something, and it's all sort of ramshackle and odd and tonally bananas, and what are they even doing and why, just became like very attractive. I can't explain.
I've seen, weirdly enough, you know, there's definitely, certainly in the 70s, there was definitely like a Greek movie industry. And, you know, there's probably a lot of sort of interesting things to be discovered there. The one Greek director who made something of a kind of B-movie splash in the States would be Nico Mastorakis, who had a bunch of movies released recently on Arrow Blu-ray and a few other Blu-ray boutique Blu-ray releases, and his stuff veers from kind of very grotty exploitation stuff to, again, weird films. Weird because they're genre films, right? So I'm going to make an American style action movie, but no, I'm not. I'm going to get Oliver Reed to come to Greece and put him in a helicopter, and you know, it's like that kind of movie where you go, I have watched American movies, so I know how to make a movie. And then, you know, it's that kind of thing. And then they're like, what we need is Oliver Reed, stick him in a helicopter in a military uniform, firing a bazooka. And that's a movie, right? Those things, I've seen a few of those, and I'm like, okay, they have a certain charm to them. But there's something about 70s Greek movies, and I've seen enough of them to kind of know this. They're weirdly, like, the grain of the film and the colorization of the film, especially in that period, it weirdly troubles, like, it weirdly unsettles me. It's a little too, I don't know, it's like a little too yellow or a little too washed out or a little too something. Like, there's something about it that, especially, like I say, with Brian Eno dying on an accordion in the background, there was something unnerving about this that sort of almost turned my stomach, and not in a good way, just in a way where I'm like, oh, please make it stop. Like, it was it kind of, and it was interesting because I watched the first half at home, and then I watched the second half this morning when I was waiting for my wife who had oral surgery this morning, and I was sat in the waiting room of her dental surgeon. And waiting rooms, especially for dentists, and especially for dentists in New York, are always grotty, always 70s, always like brown and beige and peeling and weird. I remember vividly when I was out in Vegas, where weirdly enough I had my wisdom teeth out, all the dental places in Vegas, because they're about 15 minutes old, are all like shiny and white and blue, and there's, you know, brand new equipment, and people walk in and they're young dynamic dentists with like the crisp white tunics and, you know, mad headlights and all the rest of it. Like they're just like interesting, dynamic, shiny teeth, crazy people in this world of like futuristic design and stuff. And then you come to New York, where all the dental offices are like 700 years old, and the dentists are like these old, decrepit, bony men, you know, who look like extras out of Hammer horror films. And all the waiting rooms have been there since, you know, 1983. They all smell of urine, and they're all brown and awful. Watching this brown, awful, urine-smelling movie in, you know, a fairly, you know, dingy waiting room, and putting those two things together, I have to, you know, with the smell of dentistry going on, I have to say, like, it was a bit tough to get.
Yeah, I bet.
To get through the movie.
I can't imagine why you would not go. Like, yeah, you need to escape, not like. Do you know what I mean? Like, double down on the unnerving, like, on the nauseating brow.
Well, the reason I did it is because Kim was like, "Will you come along and be there?" And I was like, "Of course." but knowing that it was going to be about an hour wait while I was in the waiting room, I'm like, perfect, I'll finish Land of the Minotaur rather than trying to cram it in around my work day. I'll sit there, and it's like very often I'll watch one of our movies that we're doing like in the laundromat because I'm just sat there for 2 hours doing the laundry, and I might as well just have the movie on my iPad or whatever. So yeah, that may have coloured my opinion of it somewhat, but I
feel like it might have done. Yeah,
I don't think I'm wrong though. It is a beige,
you're not wrong. You're not, and the thing is, I don't disagree with you either. I'm just saying
we also haven't gone over the plot. We haven't gone over the plot at all. But
that's because it's like there's no plot. That I think we should just leave it there because there's no plot. We talked about basically what happens. Donald Pleasence calls his mate. Ted Crilly PI, who comes along. They spend the whole movie sort of like I think the idea is that they squabble, but they don't really. Just Ted Crilly PI doesn't believe anything Pleasence is saying, which begs the question, then what are you doing here? And they're looking for like some missing, he keeps calling missing kids, missing children, but they're like 30-year-old archaeologists. Yeah. So it's like, they can take care of themselves, Don. I mean, I know they're in trouble. I'm not disputing that. But this idea that they're like the kids are being missing, it's like they're not kids. And it's because they're being sacrificed to a Minotaur statue that talks by Peter Cushing for no reason, for no benefit to himself, other than the talking statue doesn't like people wandering in. He's very clear about personal space. He doesn't like people coming in to his temple. And if they enter the Temple of the Minotaur, whatever it was called, they must die. And Peter Cushing then kills them. Sometimes he kills them in front of the Minotaur. Sometimes he ties them up and then takes them somewhere else a week later to kill them, because you can only kill them in twos, which the Minotaur doesn't say might be a Cushing thing. Eventually, this tortuous Peter Cushing not killing people goes on for long enough that Pleasence and disbelieving Ted, doubting Ted, stumble across the actual thing. Whereupon, my favourite bit was, how are they going to foil Cushing's final sacrifice? And it seemed to be Donald Pleasence like, I've got to stand in front of the window, right? It was like
there was a whole bit where they were. It was already dark. And there was a whole conversation where Pleasence and doubting Ted Crilly stood there, and he was like, what are we doing? We're waiting for the moon to rise. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's nighttime. Like, I'm pretty sure the moon would already... Like, that's how the world works. And he's like, no, we're going to... Because the moon doesn't... Like, the moon does rise, but it rises, like, during daylight. Like, you don't see... It's not like the sun. Like...
Yeah, it's not like it's dark, and then you wait around and the moon comes up, and you go, oh, it's a bit brighter now the moon's up. But what was Pleasence doing in the window? Because it took him ages to get up there.
Well, because they don't seem to understand that the moon is a satellite, and we go around the sun. Like, it's not... Like, the moon... I don't want to go into, like, the whole thing about it. But anyway... Like, there's a reason why the sun rises and the moon is just there. Like, there's a very, scientific reason for it. But no,
what was Pleasence doing in the window? I can't remember.
Hang on, they're going to hang around. They're going to hang around and wait for the moon to rise. So that's another 10 minutes. Any low-budget filmmaker out there, have a scene where they inexplicably wait for the moon to rise, which, again, not something that happens. But... The reason why it goes dark is the sun goes down and then the moon's down. Anyway, I don't know why I have to explain this. So the moon rises. Pleasence's big plan is he's going to shimmy up the wall of the castle, which, by the way, at his age in this movie was very impressive. Shimmied up the wall of the castle, and he is going to stand between the moon and the Minotaur. Because if the moon doesn't hit the Minotaur, the whole thing's off. It's like the Minotaur seems very specific. The Minotaur's like, it's got to be a couple. And Cushing must have been like, I've got two gardeners. No, it has to be a male and a female. Oh, all right. Fuck. Have another one.
What happens if you're a single bloke who wanders into the Minotaurs? Are you all right then?
You're all right then. Well, as long as you stand between the moon and the Minotaur.
It's like, most of his life he's not being shot on by the moon. Like a significant portion of the Minotaur's
portion of the But the other thing is, the Minotaur's like, the moon has got to be shining on me. It's very specific, and it's got to be a couple, and I've got to have at least 3 different coloured of silken robes around me. It's got to be at least 3 different colours.
No logic to any of it. It's like, why is he in blue? He's in red. They're in white.
Yeah.
They're murdering, but they're all right.
Well, there's also black hoods.
Oh, black hoodie within there. Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of black hoodie. There was that whole like, it's the whole village. But then they were like, oh yeah, come in and have tea. And it was like, Pleasence no one was like accusing the village of a cover-up until it got to that bit of the movie where like, well, I guess they're all involved, and we should have a bit where they're like, oh, the whole village is in on it. But like, Pleasence lives there, and like, there's the church, and you know what I mean?
No, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. So anyway, Pleasence. Then how does everyone blow up? That's the bit I'm forgetting. He blocks the moon.
I think it was Crilly, right? Doesn't Ted Crilly go, moon plan you're washed?
No, Crilly gets kidnapped. Pleasence saves the day.
I thought he like knocked somebody out.
No, dude, because at the end, Pleasence unties the couple and prays for them, and then he goes to untie Ted Crilly, who's also the Ted Crilly is in the third stone chair.
That's right, because like temporarily made an exception for the couples only rule.
And then Ted Crilly goes, "What? You're not going to say a prayer for me?" Bananas, more funny, wacky commentary. I only care about facts. I don't know if you've noticed, mate.
How did the Minotaur die? How did he die?
Does Pleasence stab? No, he just prays. That's what it is. Pleasence comes down. He blocks the moon. Right. He comes down to where Cushing is doing the thing, and he starts... No, he has holy water. Sorry. He's up there.
Right.
He blocks the moon.
Holy water.
So the whole movie, Pleasence is like, God, God, God. And Crilly is like, fuck off, there's no God. And then he's like, but God, God, God. And he's like, no, I don't believe in God. I only believe in facts. I don't know what that means. And then at the end, Pleasence is like, screw your facts, mate. I'm going to bring the holy water, bring the crucifix. I'm going to, anomine patris this bitch. And he throws holy water over everyone. Cushing explodes, the Minotaur explodes, and then all the blue guys explode.
That's right, I forgot Cushing explodes.
That explodes.
Was mental. It's not like, because what harms monsters? Well, we've got silver bullets. No, we can't afford the budget for guns. What about holy water? Holy water will do, right. What happens when you throw holy water on a vampire? They go like, and then they run away. But nobody in the history of horror outside of this movie explodes when hit by holy water.
Also, like the myth and legend of the Minotaur plays no part in this whatsoever. It is a stone statue of the Minotaur, but that's it. Like, there's no discussion.
In a Greek temple, underneath as well. It's like, listen, this Greek temple, we like it, it's great. Could we have also a worship area underneath the temple?
Yeah, underneath.
Where we'll have...
It's 3 tiers. It's 3 tiers.
3 tiers.
That's what it is. That's what it is. It all comes back to the 3 tiers.
That's right, because he's like, what's the Minotaur doing down there? He's hanging out underneath the temple that's underneath the other temple. He's in like the 3rd temple. Is he supposed to come up from hell? Is that the idea? Or is he just like hanging out there in the dark, feeling a bit lonely, waiting for Cushing to come by with a couple for him to like stand over and sneeze flames?
It's almost like the guy sat around and he was like, it's another reason why I don't believe that this Arthur Rowe guy wrote this thing, because this is a clear case of a Greek guy who's like, we want to make a horror movie in Greece. What is our one Greek thing? Yeah. And the one Greek monster is the Minotaur. Except the Minotaur was all about what wasn't it? In the middle of a maze, and the whole point was like,
he's in the middle of a maze,
proving your worth. Theseus kills him eventually, but King Minos or something, doesn't he like send people down there?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Minotaur's like cursed. I think there's like an interesting story behind why it's a Minotaur. He's the product of Zeus and a woman, right? Isn't that it? Like, Zeus as a bull has it away with a woman, and then the Minotaur is like, and it's like the sun. Possibly. Isn't he like Minos' son or something?
Possibly.
And he's like through shame. Anyway, it's an interesting story. It's a lot more interesting than
this movie.
I breathe flame. I don't move. I live underneath a temple, the third tier of another temple.
So
they're like the basement. Like I live in the basement of a temple's basement. Like I'm properly.
And I have two Bunsen burners in my nostrils. But so there are about 4 or 5 good things about this movie, and I'm going to list them very quickly. First of all, the title of the movie flies out of the Minotaur's nostrils. I'm a big fan of that. I was a big fan of that. I thought that was excellent. I thought it was excellent. If you're going to call your movie Land of the Minotaur, have it come out of the Minotaur's nostrils. Bang for your buck right there. Cushing and Pleasence, fantastic. Although I have to say, like, you know, phoning it in, all that stuff. Although Cushing with the shotgun, I was a big fan of that scene.
Yeah. I thought Cushing phoned it in less than... I suspect because Cushing chooses to do less. Pleasence is always doing more. Pleasence isn't a very...
No, but there was a weird bit. There was a really weird bit where I'm like... It felt like the director was using cutaway footage of Pleasence from a different scene. And that was when they drive the truck through the wall and knock over one of the Black Hoods... and drag him behind the car, and they find the other two couple already dead. And there was a couple of weird cutaways of Pleasence where I kind of thought, like, really, Don, you're not gonna like react or say something or do something? Because like if it was Loomis or if it was any other character he's played, he would have like lines and he'd be running around and like, you know, doing prayers over the body, and you know, they have gone from here. Like it would all be like that. And in this one, he just kind of stood kind of blank-eyed, you know. And I didn't know whether they were using like cutaways from another scene. I wouldn't be surprised because they were like, well, we have nothing to cut away to. Let's cut away to just this random shot of Pleasence we got on the beach or something. I don't know. But it was, so that was a bit weird because I was just like, it's unusual for Don not to do like something.
Whereas Cushing if Cushing just like phones it in, it's still got his like low grade, like menacing charisma. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm in charge. But I just speak slowly and posh, and I'll be right.
I did like Cushing as the Baron of Carpathia wearing his Sunday best, wielding a shotgun and saying, "I will cut you in half with this thing." That was pretty fun. So that was good. The dream sequence where people kept stabbing Pleasence with a green fisheye lens. I enjoyed that immensely.
Oh yeah. Which had no payoff. Zero payoff. This is where it's going. It's inevitable. This is going to have to happen, and then nothing even close to that happened.
No, and I thought that's where it was going to go. I thought like I thought that Pleasence would sacrifice himself for the good of the whole, and the Minotaur would, I don't know, melt or something. But
non-linear ways, yeah.
So that was odd, but I enjoyed it a lot. I really did like. So for people who don't know, there's the scene. One night they get back to the hotel, the inn. She goes to have a bath. She's in the middle of a bath. All the people in Black Hood show up. She screams and then faints in the bath. And then the guy comes in, Ted Crilly comes in, picks her up out of the bath, still covered in soap and everything, and then plonks her down on the bed. It fades to black, and then it's the next day. And then the next day they're all, I don't know, walking through the town or going for a drive or whatever they're doing. And then about halfway through, around lunchtime, they come back to the inn, and she goes, "I'm really dirty. I'm going to take a bath." And there was something about the way she said it and the fact that we had just had a scene in a bathtub that I enjoyed no end. Like I thought that was wonderful, the way that was delivered. And then the finale, I genuinely liked the finale. Like the fact that it ends with Pleasence scaling a castle wall and then making a Minotaur explode with guts. Like I thought that was fantastic. Outside of that, the rest of the movie, I've made the movie sound better than it is. Don't watch this movie.
No, I don't think so. I think we painted a pretty accurate picture of how terrible the movie is. It's just for whatever reason, this time I was in the mood for that. I can't guarantee I will be next time, but this time I was in the mood for a terrible movie.
Well, we will wrap up the Pleasencing season next week with our 5th and final Pleasence film. But I have to say, especially these last 2 episodes have been a delight. There's nothing I like more than compromised B-movies with potential, one of which I felt at least tried to fulfill its potential, and another one that didn't even bother to get out of bed. But I liked talking about both because I feel like there's something there to be said. So I enjoy those episodes.
We're not sneering either. We're not sneering. Just like a delighted, like my reaction was a kind of like a delighted confusion.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I love the fact that there was a time in the world where they were like, I am a Greek film director. How do I break into Hollywood? I get Cushing Pleasence and I make a bizarre movie about a killer Minotaur. I mean, worst things have happened.
Move. What I like most about having a Minotaur, if you're going to have a Minotaur in your movie, right, then you're thinking he's a monster, he's a half man, half beast. Maybe there's a maze involved. There's definitely prowling, probably chasing, but he just he comes up through a hole in the floor. He is literally a statue. He doesn't move. There's nothing even slightly scary about him. I think it's very bold to build your entire movie around a monster that at no point moves even an eyebrow.
So what is very interesting, and I hadn't put this together, but I was recently going through a bunch of Blu-rays that I hadn't got around to watching, and I was looking at the extras and stuff like that. And I have the Blu-ray now of The Devil's Reign, which is a movie that I've seen before, and I had the DVD of, and I've even covered on the Shatner double bill episode with Brad Gullickson from In the Mouth of Darkness. The Devil's Reign, which weirdly enough, and I'm just looking at it up now, actually came out the year before this. The Devil's Reign, The Devil's Men. There was certainly a lot of the whole devil worship, and Anton LaVey, who was the head of the Satanic Church in America and all that kind of stuff. There was a lot of satanic panic going around in the 70s, as they say. And I have to say, watch The Devil's Reign versus this. Like, if anyone's going to go out and want to watch like a satanic panic movie, The Devil's Reign is equally bizarre. It's Ernest Borgnine as the devil versus William Shatner, but it's with Tom Skerritt in there as well. But it's beautifully shot, some wonderful special effects, and just a little better done than this one. I mean, equally bizarre and equally like, okay, what am I watching? Where is this going? Why is any of this happening? But it literally starts and William Shatner's dad shows up without any eyes and then melts in front of him. And William Shatner's like, yes, I've got to go get Corbin. And you're like, wait, who's Corbin? Why did that guy just melt? And it's like, it doesn't matter. We're off to the races. Shatner's got to go get Corbin. Corbin just made the guy melt. Corbin turns out to be a goat-faced Ernest Borgnine devil guy who's taken over the old Tucson film studios in Arizona and is having like a weird... Anyway, watch it. It's kind of fantastic. Tom Skerritt then shows up being like, I'm a leading man in the 70s, being all 70s and Tom Skerritt-like, while Shatner screams and sweats a lot while strapped to an upside-down crucifix. It's marvellous and well worth watching. And it's called The Devil's Reign. It's on Tubi right now for free if you want to watch it.
All right, yeah, sounds good.
But I've got to believe, now that I'm putting those two together, I can't believe I watched The Devil's Reign last night and then I watched the rest of The Devil's Men this morning, because now I'm thinking about it, it's almost like The Devil's Reign came out, he watched that and was like, ooh, I could do that, but with the Minotaur. Yeah, so I think that's what he did. So anyway, that's the weird confluence of events that happened. But thank you ever so much for talking about it. I genuinely love these episodes because I'd much rather have something to get my teeth into than just be like, I liked it or I didn't,
Yeah, I know what you mean. I agree.
Always something interesting to come out of it. So thank you very much. And again, don't forget to support the After Movie Diner in all of the ways that are possible to do so. I put all of the links on aftermoviediner.com. So just go to aftermoviediner.com and click all of the links. Again, thank you ever so much for listening. Here is another Pleasence song to play us out.
Footsteps, give your life to the trains. Thomas Stanley Pleasence, a station master's name, a man of soot and steam, God-fearing and strict. The passengers lived a dream, their tickets crisp and clicked. He never went where they were going, he only stayed to man the gates. They had adventures waiting for them, he accepted his noble fate. Clerk in charge in the South Yorkshire town of Swinton, but the theatre yanked at his collar and his eyes, they had that glinting. To pursue a gypsy performer's life was not a station master's way. He wanted him to follow in his father's footsteps, but found it hard to say, and he couldn't follow Don where he was going. He would just stay squarely at his post. Don had adventures waiting for him. Thomas left in the steam like an old ghost. Some are made to leave and find their own way. Others are meant to stay and just maintain. Some are headed out for fame and fortune, but someone has to wave goodbye and train. Following your father's footsteps,